The Toyota 4Runner has finally been updated here for 2025 now that the last generation was nearly old enough to drive. And I've had the pleasure this week of spending some time with this TRD Pro. As always, I'm going to go through this thing from the outside in, talk about what it's been like to live with for the past week. Let's go ahead, take a look. The 4Runner in base form starts out right around $40,000, and each trim level kind of has its own personality. This TRD Pro starts at 67 grand, and my tester here is optioned out to about 74. The base motor is going to be a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder with a twin scroll turbo. That is your iForce powertrain. And then there's an upgraded iForce Max, which is still a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder with a turbo, but it is a hybrid system. The TRD Pro is only available with the iForce Max, the upgraded engine, and that makes 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. This is not a slow truck, and either way you get an electronically controlled 8-speed automatic transmission. So if you're hoping for a manual, unfortunately there's no manual no matter which powertrain you get. A little bit surprising since it shares a platform with the Tacoma, and that one does have a manual in the iForce in a couple of the trim levels. But not available here no matter which powertrain you get. For your drivetrain, you've got a 2-wheel drive, a part-time 4-wheel drive, or a full-time 4-wheel drive, depending on which trim level you get. The TRD Pro comes in part-time 4-wheel drive with a rear locking diff. I mentioned each 4Runner kind of has its own personality. A big part of that is the suspension. This one is sitting on QS3 Fox Shocks with 3-way manual adjustability, so it's set up a little bit more for high-speed off-roading, and it's sitting on big 33-inch all-terrain Toyo tires. Now, because of that, it is also pretty tall, so I would recommend getting the assist steps or the runners if you're on the short side, or if you've got kids. My 6-year-old has had a little bit of trouble getting in and out of this vehicle. You know, I would not mind it being a little bit easier as well, but you can option those if you'd like. I mean, 4Runner, runner is in the name, so you got to be able to get runners on it, right? Now, despite the big presence, it's not actually a huge vehicle. It is tall, and it is a little bit longer than like a Bronco or a Wrangler, even in 4-door form. But lengthwise, I've been able to get it in my garage really with no issue. It's about an inch shorter than something like a Palisade, so not huge. Some other notable features on the exterior, you do have power mirrors. These are heated. They'll tilt when you go in reverse. You got the LED turn signal in there. Keyless access to the front doors here with the touch to lock and touch to unlock. A hood vent up front. I love the throwback kind of heritage looking logo here with Toyota spelled out. Parking sensors up front. You got manually adjustable LED headlights. You got amber and daytime running lights. You got the rigid fog lights on here, as well as the light bar across there. And underneath you got skid plate. An aluminum skid plate is standard on the TRD Pro, as well as some protection around the diff, the transfer case, and the fuel tank. And that skid plate is flanked by a recovery hook. Backside is a recovery hook here as well, next to your spare tire, mounted underneath to save a little bit of space inside. And you got your tow hitch up above that. Stop it. And you've got your tow hitch up above that, which you can tow up to 60. And you've got your tow hitch above that, which can tow up to 6,000 pounds. That's really annoying while I'm trying to film. So it has kick to open, in case you didn't notice. But we'll get to that in a second. You got Toyota stamped across here. You got your easy access to your lock unlock. I've never seen that before. That's interesting. You got 2 cameras in here because one is the rear view and one is going to be your internal camera, your digital mirror, which I'll talk about a little bit on the inside. LED lights here. You got your hidden wiper up here. That's pretty fancy. And then, as I mentioned, kick to open, which goes up into massive amounts of space here. You can cram a 3rd row back here if you'd like in some of the other trim levels, but the TRD Pro comes with 2 rows as standard, no 3rd row available in this trim. And tons of space. There's even more space under here, as well as your hidden tools over there, a little bit more space in the back as well. You got battery access over here, a bunch of storage all around. Your subwoofers back here. You got a 2400 watt here. And then your compressor is over here on the side, which is quite a nice feature to have. So that is standard on the TRD Pro. And so if you are actually out there taking this to the trails and you're airing down on the trails, you don't have to bring an air compressor, and you don't have to go find a gas station with an air compressor. You can just air right back up from the vehicle itself. And pop that closed. Before we hop inside, we do have the dinky kind of Toyota. These keys, I wish they were a little bit more solid, but you know, kind of cheap plastic, but it does have that cool logo on the back. So there's that little camo going on. You can open the hatch with this. You got your panic, your lock, unlock, standard stuff. And if you have the remote connect subscription, then you can also remote start the vehicle. You just tap it 3 times and hold it down on that third try. Tap the lock 3 times and hold it down on that third try to start it up. But you have to have that remote connect subscription in order to make that work, or you can go in through the app. A little thing I want to mention before we hop in, this is actually an option, this isn't standard, but right here, this, I was a little curious about this, so I started poking at it. It's righty loosey lefty tighty, which makes no sense, but you turn that, you pop this out. This is actually a portable lantern, so if you're out camping or something, you just have this lantern on hand, which is pretty cool. We got a bunch of different settings there for that, including a red light, and when you're done with it, just pop it back in. The interior of the 4Runner is a massive upgrade from last year, as you kind of expect, since it was essentially over a decade old. And it's a great interior for a truck. It's not precious, but it also doesn't look like Fisher-Price got the stomach bug. I do kind of wish Toyota had skipped the Black Friday big screen sale at Best Buy, but at least if you leave it in dark mode, it kind of blends in okay. And everything else is physical knobs and buttons and switches, from your HVAC to your transfer case, your drive modes, your heated steering wheel, your seat controls, your lighting, your 4 customizable aux switches, all physical controls that are easy to access. If I'm going to get a little bit nitpicky, the buttons on the steering wheel are a little bit shallow. So when you press them, there's not a whole lot of feedback. I imagine if you've got big gloves on in the winter, you can barely even feel if you pressed them. But again, that is a little bit on the nitpicky side. But outside of that, all the controls nice and easy to use, and even the ones in the screen really are pretty simple and straightforward. This is Toyota's latest and greatest, and you've got all your tabs down the side that are very clear, and just a handful of settings and menus buried in here. Android Auto, Apple Carplay are both wireless, and other than taking a minute to get connected when you first get in the car, that has worked flawlessly with my wireless Android Auto. My only real qualm here with the infotainment is that you can't adjust your driver's assist settings. All that stuff is buried in the cluster. In Lexus, you can adjust that through this screen, and that would just be so much easier to do through here rather than having it buried 6 menus deep in the cluster. And you've got a spot for your phone down here as well, a wireless charger that works fine even in a case, and with it being vertical, it saves you a little bit of space. Got some USB-C over there and a 12 volt as well as some more storage. The fully digital gauge cluster is clean with a handful of rugged styles and the ability to create sets of informational widgets, pitch and roll, turbo. You can watch your fuel economy if you're some kind of masochist. No head-up display in the TRD Pro, but it is available in other specs. But you do get a fully digital mirror here, the rear view mirror, which I love to see, especially in tall vehicles like this. Visibility out the back isn't great, especially lower down, and there's tons of adjustability in here in terms of positioning, rotation, brightness. You also have your home link settings here. So the mirror helps with visibility out the back, but you also have a 14 camera system, which helps with visibility all around from the front and the sides and the back and lower down. So if you are on a trail, or even if you are in a parking lot, like dropping your kids off and stuff, like when I'm dropping my 6-year-old off at school, there are other 6-year-olds running around down below the hood of the vehicle. It helps to have those cameras so that you can see everything that's going on around you. And you can set those to go automatically. So if someone comes up near the car, or if you get close to another car, or even goes off at like stoplights and stuff, it'll automatically show the feed when you get close to something. You can do that, but I found that to be a little bit distracting just because it comes on so often, so I turned that off. I had the same issue with the Tacoma as well, so I left that off, but it's there if you want it. And the cameras are so easily accessible just with this view button down here, so you can always get access to them quickly if you need to. Up top, you've got controls for your sunroof as well as the rear power window, and you got a spot for your sunglasses. My only other kind of nitpicky thing up here is while there are cup holders and bottle holders all over the place, there's nothing big enough for an Nalgene. I wish they would do like a deeper console here or something like they do in a lot of trucks. You can throw out like a big Nalgene or a bigger water bottle, but you know, I know that that's a little bit nitpicky, a little bit niche. Back seats are cozy, not quite as bad as the Tacoma, but definitely going to want to save this for shorter people and kids. And even then, you're going to want to turn off the entry exit feature for the memory seats, because when I turn the car off, oftentimes this will come back. It kind of squished my son's toes a little bit. We've got booster seats back here. Probably be okay with forward facing seats, again, as long as you're not super tall and your kids aren't super tall and you have that feature turned off for the entry exit. But rear facing seats are probably going to be a problem. You got nice big armrest here with cup holders in it, bottle holder off to the side as well, some USB-Cs, vents back here, thankfully on this 80-degree week. Another 2400 watt outlet down here. And if you need a little bit of extra space, but you don't have passengers back here, then you can fold both of these seats up and out of the way. There's a little hook here to keep it from falling back down. Really, outside of a couple of nitpicks and the rear seat space, this is a pretty nice place to be. When it comes to the drive, first off, I'm not the off-road guy. I've said this before, you know, if you're dropping 70 grand on a truck, chances are you're probably not just using it as a toy anyway. And let's face it, a lot of you aren't using it as a toy at all. You're just like the looks of it and like the idea that it could go off-road if you needed it to. And no judgment here, pretty badass. And I've just been using it as a daily driver, so I'm going to talk to you more about how it is on the road. First off, if you're shopping like a Bronco or a Wrangler, this has a lot fewer compromises. This actually does a pretty good job of daily driving without making a bunch of compromises. You know, those do have the doors come off, the roof comes off, so you get a lot more rattles, and it's just louder in general in there. It's still not exactly quiet in here, but not nearly as loud and no rattles at all. And then in terms of ride quality, this rides better than both of those as well, especially the Wrangler. The Wrangler with the live front axle, and it's just, you know, that one doesn't ride so great at all. The Bronco rides better than the Wrangler, but this rides better than both of those. Plus you get the recirculating ball steering, and the Wrangler's just kind of sketchy on the highway. This is a lot more comfortable, a lot more easy to drive, a lot easier to live with. You know, it still drives like a truck, unsurprisingly. It shares a platform with the Tacoma and with the Tundra, but with this suspension setup, it rides a lot nicer than a truck usually does, especially like a mid-size or smaller truck. It rides surprisingly well for something that's body on frame on a truck platform. It does have coil springs, which helps, and the off-road suspension. I've mentioned this in the past. A lot of times an off-road suspension actually helps with daily driving too, because it's supposed to sort of protect you from those big bumps that you're hitting when you're off-road. So, you know, it does help a little bit here as well. Now, one big point of contention is the powertrain. So instead of a big displacement, naturally aspirated V6, now you have a Turbo 4, which seems kind of like a downgrade on paper, but the Turbo plus the hybrid system, this makes a lot more horsepower, a lot more torque than that outgoing V6, and it also makes torque way down lower in the rev range. Your peak is way lower, so you can get moving much more quickly in this than you could in the last generation. And plus the 8-speed automatic is definitely not hurting as compared to that 5-speed transmission. You're not winning races against a Raptor R or anything, but like there is no waiting when you hit the throttle. It's really responsive. We're talking too high in normal mode. That's pretty much where I've been spending most of my time. If you want, you can pop it into sport mode, and that opens it up even more, but honestly, it's fine in normal. No, you don't get like the custom mode and the sport plus. That is available. Those other modes are available in other trims, but not here in this one. But honestly, you don't really need them. I haven't even been using the sport mode at all. I've pretty much just been in normal mode. And another thing that makes it easy to daily drive is the Toyota 3.0 system. So this has like the latest and greatest Toyota safety driver's assist system. You've got all your the high points here with blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, adaptive cruise. It's got your lane shove assist to keep you in your lane when you start to go out of the lane. It also has your lane tracing, which keeps you very well centered in your lane, which is nice on long highway trips. And the adaptive cruise actually works all the way down to stop and go traffic. Plus you have a crawl control, which is kind of like a cruise control for trails, like a low speed cruise control. And then the blind spot monitoring is smart enough to know, like when you have a trailer attached, it won't just beep at you like if your car is about to hit something in the blind spot. If the 4Runner is about to hit something in the blind spot, it will beep at you if there's something in the trailer's blind spot. So it actually kind of expands the view range of the blind spot monitoring, which is a pretty cool feature. And all of those things, they're not really in the way, and anything that is in the way you can just disable and it will stay off. Like I turned off the lane shove assist where it shoves you back into your lane because I don't really love that, and the proactive drive assist just because like sometimes it'll like kind of brake for you when you pull up to someone. I really don't like that system, so you just turn that off if it's bugging you, and it will stay off. And it's really the way everything is set up, the way I have everything set up right now, like nothing has been interfering with me, and everything has just been kind of there when I needed it, which is exactly what you want to see from the safety and driver's assist features. Plus, I'm definitely not mad about having all these cameras around. I mentioned those before, but I love the digital mirror for unobstructed view through the back. But outside of that, I mean, visibility is pretty good. Nice big mirrors, not really a huge blind spot over here anyway. Good visibility out the side. Honestly, even without the digital mirror, there's surprisingly the visibility out the back isn't too bad. At least here in the 2-row version. I imagine the 3-row is a little worse, and when you have passengers in the back, it makes it a little bit worse. But this way, you don't have to worry about things that are low down behind you either, and you just have that totally unobstructed view. So I love this thing. You know, overall, the driving experience here is really nice. It's just when you get into something that's like body on frame, kind of truck platform, and it's big, it's heavy, it's tall as well. Worry about the compromises, you know, something that looks badass and has more capability off-road, but honestly, there are not really too many compromises here other than maybe fuel economy. And even this fuel economy, it's not good. I've been getting like 18 miles per gallon. The iForce Max system is definitely tuned more for power and performance and not so much for efficiency. But the old Powertrain, the V6, I mean, that was rated at 18 combined anyway, so you know, you're not really losing out on fuel efficiency from last generation. But outside of the fuel efficiency, like, there just really aren't too many compromises here. This is an easy car to daily drive, especially if you're coming from a truck or another big body on frame SUV. Like this is just great to live with. At the end of the day, the 4Runner has been massively upgraded over the last generation, and a lot of times when you get these big sort of off-road focused vehicles, you make a lot of sacrifices for daily driving, but this one really doesn't come with too many sacrifices outside of the fact that, you know, it drives like a truck. It doesn't really handle particularly well, and it's not super fuel efficient, but outside of that, you know, it really, you can easily daily drive this. It's got tons of space, and it's got a lot of pretty nice features and a pretty decent interior. It's a pretty decent place to be as well. This really is a great overall package, whether you're taking it off-road or not. Now, all that does come at a cost though. I mentioned this one, the TRD Pro starts at $66, and this one is optioned up to $74. So that is a lot of money to be dropping on something, especially if you're not going to be the one, if you're not going to be one to take it off-road. But in base form, you know, 40 grand, that's not too bad for a big SUV. It's just when you start getting up into these upper trims that it gets a little bit more spendy. But if you're not quite convinced on this one, stick around. I've got the Honda Passport Trail Sport coming up next. And as always, let me know what you think about the updated 2025 Toyota 4Runner down in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Reviews.